All right, Amanda, we're ready.
Okay.
So tell me a story. So how do you grow up?
I grew up in a loving, caring home. My parents were they disciplined me, but not to the extent of being abused. My parents were always there for me whenever I needed them growing up. I have 3 brothers. For my memory, my childhood was always good. I never had any. I need to pause.
So your childhood is pretty happy.
Yeah.
You have both your parents?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me how you moved to Barrie.
So I moved to Barrie when my mom and dad got back together. When they got back together, we moved to Barrie, and my mom started drinking more than she normally would have started drinking, and that's kind of when the distance between me and my mom had started. And of course, once you start drinking, you get involved with other stuff, so that distanced her a little bit more from me. But growing up, I remember she was always there for me, even despite her having her issues. Maybe when I was younger, she had those issues as well. I just didn't recognize. But growing up, you start to recognize those things, right? But those things seem normal if you're raised in it. But being on my own and having to learn things for myself, I realized a lot of things growing up that I went through weren't normal. And I think it's just been passed down generation from generation of just not being given updated knowledge or updated information that's kept, them in the same cycle of continuing to do the same things over and over again. So I had to make a decision for myself to learn from those experiences and learn from what my parents did wrong to do what was right.
Can you give me more details about the things wrong of a generation's thing?
Just drinking to deal with issues, drugging to deal with issues. I think a lot of trauma it's inner trauma, right? From our childhood, from our past, that we try to bottle up, and it shows in aggressive ways, right? And that's why a lot of people turn to the drugs and alcohol to help cope with those pain. But that trauma will always be there unless you work through those issues and you resolve them and do that inner work, that inner peace, and find the issues that have where it had stemmed from, right?
Do you have any specific memory of the drinking issues? Those kind of memory?
No, like I said, well, for me growing up, my parents never overdrank. They always still went to work in the morning. They I guess they drank to deal with their issues, but they did it responsibly. But my trauma didn't start until I was older. After I'd been in an abusive relationship, and that's I guess. Seeing my parents grow up and drink and just knowing that that's how they coped, I guess that's how I chose to cope as well. And then just realizing that those coping skills weren't working. They were just because once I was sober, that pain was still there, right? In the morning, that pain was still there. So I had to work through those inner issues and that inner pain and tell my story to be able to get through it and help other people realize that you can work through that pain, you can work through that trauma, and talking about it helps more than yourself. It helps other people as well.
Sure. So how was your relationship with your brothers?
My relationship with my brothers was good. I don't have much memories from my 2 older brothers or my stepbrothers. I don't have much recollection of them being in my life when I was younger. I know that they've always been around for family gatherings and family get-togethers and stuff like that. I know they've always been there to support me and they've always cared about me. It's just circumstances and situations have ended up drifting us apart, and
You have something you want to share, but you don't know how to, right?
Yeah. My brothers have always been there to guide me, and they were a little bit hard on me growing up, but they were never abusive towards me. They were brothers to me, right? So,
Okay.
I'm not too sure what happened with my mom's past relationship that had prevented us from having a strong relationship growing up when I was younger. But I know that if I ever needed them, they'd always be there. I've never been afraid of them or feared them or anything like that. I've always felt safe in their presence and stuff. So, my childhood was, like I said, it was pretty good. It was my trauma and pain more started from when I was older, and I didn't have the right coping skills. I wasn't raised with the proper coping skills to be able to deal with real life and what life throws at you, and I don't think there's enough of that in school, and emotion regulation and mental health, and just the little things that make a bigger picture, right? So
Yeah. So tell me, when is your first relationship?
so my first serious relationship was when I was 14, 15. And that was after my mom had split up around the same time. She had went with her ex, actually her sister's boyfriend. So it's kind of a messed up situation there. Hold on, I need a minute.
Yeah, your first relationship.
So my first relationship, I think I probably would have been 14, just turned 15. It was kind of like a love at first sight thing. I didn't have two mentally stable parents at the time. My parents had just split up. It's a difficult situation there. My family has always struggled with addiction. My aunt as well, and she recently actually just passed away due to that a few years ago. But when she was in treatment, there was a house fire, and my mom went to go help with the house fire, and she just never ended up coming home. So she went to help with the fire, and she got back on the drugs, and she just never ended up coming home, and that kind of gave me the leeway to kind of do whatever I want, because my dad was obviously upset that she had left, and my mom was there for me most of my life, so I listened to her more growing up. So when they had split up, it kind of gave me the not the chance, but the freedom to not be free, because I ended up getting in a toxic relationship, right? And I was in that relationship till I was 18. I had my first daughter in that relationship. It was a very toxic relationship. I was pretty much kept in a room for most of the time. I was told what I could wear, what I couldn't wear. Just mental, emotional abuse. Just physical abuse. Not sexual, but physical, like aggression.
So the boyfriend is the same age, like 14, 15?
He was 2 years older than me.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's starting abusing you since 14, 15, or?
So the abuse didn't start at first. Obviously the relationship was good at first, and then it got worse, but, I don't blame him for being abusive to me, because if that's how maybe he dealt with his abuse, and he used me as an outreach to abuse me because he felt safe with me. I don't know, but either way, abuse isn't right. You know what I mean? But I was luckily able to get out of that relationship. But when I had got out of that relationship, I was distraught and I was broken, so I turned to drugs and alcohol, and I was lost for 6 or 7 years of my life, just trying to get myself clean and get myself to back to where I was, and I wasn't able to do it because I never did the inner work that I needed to do. I never resolved the inner pain and dealt with the pain. And once I started to deal with the pain and started to work on and realize that everyone makes their own decisions and everyone makes their own choices. It was my choice to stay, and I could have easily left if I wanted to. But when you're in that relationship, you depend on that love, and you depend on that that abuse, even if it's bad or good. And when you're in that state, right? And luckily, I was able to to realize that that wasn't the way I should be treated. And I was able to leave him after we had an incident. And like I said, I had turned to drugs and alcohol because I didn't have anyone else to turn to. And that led me down a path of pain and hurt and learning experiences.
So from 14 to 18, do you think that incident caused trauma?
Yeah, it did. But like I said, I was able to. I still carry some of that trauma. Just because like words, sticks and stones break bones, and words hurt forever. So, those words that have been said, they'll always be in my head, and I'll always have those thoughts. But I have to overcome those thoughts, and when I do get those thoughts, I try to talk them and tell myself the opposite of those, because I know I'm not that person. I know I'm not that way, and I know I am a good person. And so that's the hardest part, is talking to yourself to overcome those things that you've been told in the past, right?
So starting from 18 years old, you use drugs.
Yeah.
What kind of drugs?
Well, I when I was younger, like probably from the age of 12 to 15, I had used drugs, but not to the point of for escaping. I was more of experimental.
Which kind of drugs?
Ecstasy.
Oh, Molly. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like Molly, but it's not a pure form of it.
Okay, not very pure.
Yeah. So it has it's just a lot of chemicals in it, right? So
use it for party?
Yeah, it was more of a party thing, right? So it was like, on the weekends, that it was, and then eventually it just progressed.
Yeah.
Once I got in the relationship, I didn't use it all. But then once I had left him, it progressed back into that stuff, right?
Yeah. Do you still remember when you were 12, the first time you used ecstasy? What is the feeling?
It was a good feeling. It opened my brain to being able to remember all my past good memories, right? Like, it brought up all the good memories, and just it made me communicate and help me open up myself to people more. Like, I remember back when I used to do it, I used to have really good conversations when, like, me and my friends, but it wasn't because I wasn't using because I was traumatized, right? I was using because I was young, and I was living life, and I was learning, and I was growing and experimenting with just life itself, right? But like I said, after the trauma got involved, then it kind of switched the dimension of the drugs. So then the drugs started to become toxic. They started to do the opposite of what they used to do. So. And then when I would get sober, those thoughts and that trauma would still be there, like I had said before. So,
So from 12 to 18, just occasionally use those kind of party drugs.
Yeah.
Not a heavy one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about 18?
So 18, I started drinking. Well, actually 19 is when I turned 19. I went down to the bar, and I guess trying to find someone else to love me, I guess, or to find another love, right? And it's just, I guess, I don't know, I just on that search for love, right? And then it just continuously progressed to needing more to drink, and then eventually the drinking wasn't cutting it, so then I needed to do something to pick me up, and that's when the cocaine got involved, and then the cocaine wasn't working, and that's when the rock got involved, and then that's when the other stuff got involved, because that was once I was high off on the rock, then I needed something to come down with, right? And that's when I used heroin. Luckily, I was able to get off all those things, but it was a struggle to get off of it. But that's how I used to cope, and it's like that's not the way people should cope with things, because it doesn't heal or resolve anything. And I've learned that by experience, right? So
when you were 19, so when is the next relationship happened?
When I was 27. Like, I had seen people in between, but not serious relationships. So my second serious relationship was when I was 27, and that's when I had my middle daughter, and that's when I was able to get clean. Not clean, but I wasn't using every day. I wasn't dependent on the stuff, and just being around the wrong people and the wrong crowd kind of brought me back into dabbling here and there. It was another toxic relationship. I don't think he was toxic. I just think our energies together were toxic, and just the stuff that we had both been through, and just because he, like I said, when I had met him, my life had changed, and I had got back, having my daughter had changed my life, and it made me want to fight for my life and have a reason to fight again. My first daughter, I had lost custody of, and I haven't seen her in like 8 years. So I know that I didn't want to miss more of my, like, another kid's life, you know what I mean? So I've already missed too much time of my kids' lives, that I had to make the right decisions so I could be there for my kids, because kids need their parents. They need genuine love. And yes, thanks.
So when you had your second daughter, so you just cut it out with the whole group of wrong friends.
Yeah. So it's kind of the same situation. It's still like the same. I haven't thought about talking about. I haven't talked about this or even thought about this part of my life in so long. So I apologize. Actually, when I had my second daughter, the father was in jail. I was able to stay clean. For the most part, I'd still smoked weed. I was 6 months that I was actually completely clean until my ex had returned home from being incarcerated. And then, like I said, just being around the wrong crowd, that those old habits slowly entered back into my life, right? He ended up getting back into drugs badly. And then I had to, the CES got involved.
So he got into the jail by...
It was from a previous incident that he had done. So when I had met him, he was on...
on the run?
No. He was already in. He was in trial to go to get sentencing for previous charges that he had. So after 3 months of us being together and him being in jail, I found out I was pregnant. So through the whole pregnancy, I'd worked and sent him money and took care of him as well as I could, as trying to take care of myself. After I had given birth, I had gotten my own place. I had stayed with my dad during my pregnancy. So after I'd given birth, I had my own place. And then once he came back home and we started living together, like I said, since he didn't get clean, all those bad habits that he had slowly started to rub off on me, right? All those bad, not bad, I'm going to say toxic and not healthy patterns to be like that he hadn't dealt with yet, or his way of dealing with things, it slowly became my way of dealing with things, right? So the CAS got involved. He ended up getting on the drugs really bad. He started banging needles. I wasn't aware at first, but I was the pretty much the main caregiver of my kids. So I didn't notice that he had an issue that bad. And then by the time I did notice, it was either fight for my kids or let him stay. And I had to let him go, right? Because I had to fight for my kids. And then just when me and him had broken up, he kind of threw me under the bus and told a bunch of lies about me. Made me look like I was the bad person. And me being in just getting out of a traumatic relationship, I didn't say anything or stand up for myself. But then realizing that if I didn't stand up for myself and make the choices that I needed to make to be able to be there for my kids and get them home, that things would continue. So
then when you guys separated?
Um, 2019.
So, before 19, you guys
Oh, no.
had the third daughter?
Yeah, so we had my like in 29. So I had my third daughter in 2018, and we separated not long after that.
What happened?
I don't know what happened. Like I said, he never dealt with his trauma or the things that he had been through. So his outreach was drugs and alcohol, right? And he just started going out more and more, and just started using more and more, and it I can't speak for him, you know what I mean? So I can't speak on his behalf.
Other than drugs, what else you think is toxic in the relationship?
I think no communication is toxic. Speaking down about each other is toxic. I think having a different an opinion is okay. I don't think people should fight just because they have an opinion. I think understanding is very important. Honesty, transparency is very important as well, and love, I think, is the biggest one. I was either fight to have a toxic relationship or fight to have my kids home, and I'll always fight for my kids. So even when I was in the situation when I had first left my first ex, I still tried to fight for my daughter. Even though I was struggling, I still tried to do what I could to be there. But I wasn't in a mentally good place at that time, right? I was still healing and working through my stuff. So
right now you're still using drugs, or you're?
I'm a week clean tomorrow from everything. From weed. Weed's always been I've smoked weed ever since I can remember. That's what I started off doing, right? So weed's kind of been my last crutch. Everything that every substance I've ever used, it's become a reliance for me. So I wouldn't even say it's addiction. I became more reliant on it to make me feel better and to make me not have those thoughts and to make the days easier, right? But at the end of the day, those days weren't any easier. So
So right now, even weed, you don't use it?
No, I did have a drink of wine and a couple beers on Saturday, but even that, it kind of made me think like that's just an old habit. I'm like, I need to find another outreach to be able to, when I do feel that way, to want to do that. And it's like I have the devil angel pulling at my shoulder because for so long I've been told that it's right, and then I use it, and then I was told that it's wrong to use, and then it's like now I'm fighting. It's like, okay, can I enjoy a drink? Can I? And it's like now I'm having to fight with myself over other people's beliefs, right? So that's been difficult. Don't get me wrong, I like to enjoy myself. I'm still young, but if it means me not seeing my kids, then I won't have that glass of wine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
so the second daughter and third daughter, you also lost them?
Yeah, so the grandmother has them right now. I fought very hard for them. I was able to get a court order put in place for me to have access with them. Unfortunately, it was during COVID, so the access centers was closed. By the time that they reopened, the grandmother denied to move forward and work with me. So, and I understand that, I was still struggling and I still was working through my issues. I she just wants to make sure that I'm in a good mental and emotional position for my kids and make sure that I'm not going to fall back off track and that I am where I am supposed to be and need to be. So like I said, that court order was put in place and just not seeing them at kind of that pain, I would once in a while go back to those old habits, right? And it wasn't every day that I would use, right? It was once in a while. But I realized that once in a while will eventually become more than once in a while, and it'll eventually become back to being a crutch, right?
Yeah.
So.
You mean the grandmother is the father's side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when they got separated from you?
When?
Yeah.
2021.
2021. What happened?
So me and him had separated. And I'm not even really sure what had happened because I fought. You know what I mean? Like I did everything that I was supposed to do, and it just. But I guess at that point I hadn't done the emotional work that I needed to do. I hadn't done the healing that I needed to do, so I kept presenting the same pattern. And it, like I said, wasn't until I worked on that inner hurt and that inner trauma that I was able to change my pattern. So it's like I have to prove to them that I've made change and that I am trying to change my pattern because I don't want to continue to live that way, and I want my kids to have someone to look up to, right?
Yeah. What kind of pattern so they determine?
I don't know. Because I don't see the pattern. I see it as dealing with my trauma, and that's how I dealt with it. Even when I was like in that sorry, a second.
Yeah. So no problem. Tell me, how do you define love?
No judgment, understanding, kindness, guidance, humanity, like taking care of one another, treating one like you would treat yourself. Do you know what I mean? Unconditional love should be no judgment, and I don't know.
Have you ever met someone give you that kind of feeling?
I thought I had before.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
one?
Actually, no. Actually, now that you say that, no. No.
So, did your parents give you that kind of love feeling when you were young?
Yeah. Yeah. I thought you meant as like in a partnership, but like my parents about like if I wouldn't be so kind if my parents weren't kind to me when I was younger, right? Like I wouldn't know what kindness was if it wasn't instilled in me when I was young, right? My dad growing up wasn't he was diagnosed with schizophrenia when he was younger. So he deals with his issues with alcohol. So I remember growing up, I wouldn't want to go talk to my dad until he had a drink into him, right? Like that's when you've seen the joy in his face, right? When he had a drink, right? So that's where I'm like the devil and angel on my shoulder. It's like because like it,
So when your father had a drink, he has all the joys.
Yeah. So it's kind of so that's where it's like the devil and angel pulling on my heartstrings, because it's like I just need to know for myself what works for me and what I need to be able to cope for myself. Like he is a functional alcoholic. He goes to work every day. He comes home. He doesn't have a drink until after he gets home from work. My whole life he never drank throughout the day. Even on the weekends he didn't drink unless we were going camping. And still to this day, even after him and my mom split up, he's still, actually that's when he started drinking on the weekends, but he still, every day will go to work and won't have a drink till after 5, till after he gets home.
Okay. So the pattern of your father is when he drink, he bring all the joys to the family,
Yeah.
which build up a role model to you. Like drink is a good thing to bring joy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Guess that would make sense, yeah.
So why you want to get clean so far, right now?
I'm gonna get clean so I can have my life back. So I can help people get clean themselves. So I can give my experience and what helped me and what worked for me.
It's not easy, right?
No.
How hard? Tell me how hard.
It's very tough.
Yeah,
the struggle is real. Like, it took me falling down a bunch of times before I was able to get up. But every time I fell down, it made me stronger. And I couldn't give up, right? I had to know that there was better for me, and that no one deserves to be living and feeling that way. And just, I think there's so much corruption around drugs and alcohol, and it's a fine line.
Right now you have I know a lot of opiate gotta give you physical, you have to use.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't use it, your physical have a lot of pain, even very sick.
Yeah.
But heroin give you mental issues.
Yeah.
So which part of struggle you are facing now?
I'd say the mental issues and the physical a little bit. I'm still, those intrusive thoughts still try to come into my head, right? Just because those are old thoughts that have been installed that I have to rewire. So it's like I said, it's been every other time I've had to go. I've in my head, it's like, oh, I need to go away to get clean. I need to go to detox to get clean. And at first I did, but after knowing the resources and having the skills and the knowledge to be able to do it, I had to talk myself through it. And when those thoughts had come, to be able to sit with those thoughts and to be able to understand those thoughts and to be able to make a decision on the thought and the feeling and not just react on the thought. This has actually been the first time I've actually been able to quit smoking weed on my own ever. Just on my own, because I wanted to, because I wanted to do it for myself. Every time I've tried to get clean, it's been because I've been told I needed to or I had to. And I want to. So there's a difference. There's a difference now.
So right now the darkest moments you already passed, or you're in the darkest right now?
I think the darkest moments have already passed. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
What was your dream? Do you have any dream, hope in your future?
Yeah, to tell my story, to be a role model for people in my community, to show them that they can make it out and that they can do things differently, and that they can be where they need to be, and they can follow their dreams, and that they can reach their potential, because everyone has potential.
Yeah. Can you tell me that tattoo? This one.
Actually, I have a jean jacket, and it's I've had it from when I was younger, and I went over to my dad's and I'd seen it there, and it had given me a good feeling, the jacket. So I'd got the tattoo on my shoulder, just because they tried to cut my wings off, so I had to grow them back, type of thing. And the feather on that, I just put that there just for freedom, and just to show that every life matters.
Okay.
Showing respect. Yeah, respect for my community, and respect for all the fallen angels, and just to show that I am here and I am supporting change in the community. I'm wanting people to know that pain doesn't last forever. You know what I mean? Things do get better. As long as you surround yourself with positive people, supportive people, and it makes it so much easier if you do. So.
Thank you for the story.
You're welcome. That's just a little bit of it.